Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, where the podcast talks about a man's battle with mental health, his personal experiences, and his journey to be a better soul. Hosted by James Dean Littlejohn.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gentleman's Talk. And my favourite time of the week, the reflection hour, as I'm calling it. I absolutely love this time of the week. I actually was excited. I was looking forward to it. I poured myself a nice fresh gin so I can sit back and relax and talk to you. Obviously, I closed the week with a live podcast with my good friend Billy, which was fantastic. Nice little end to the week. Oh, excuse me. Let me just adjust the music volume there. A little bit too rambunctious. Anyway, so here I am, reflection hour, and I've got quite a bit to talk about just over the weekend, to be honest. Some goods, some really goods, and I don't think there's anything negative, but I've learnt a lot, and I really want to kick this off with. Let me just see if I can go down. No, it is that's all right. That's all right. It's me being a bit finicky till I adjust the sound with my own voice. So I want to kick it off really with an interesting story. Now I'm going to work my way backwards really with how I'm probably going to tell these stories, because there's a really important story that I sort of kind of heard from my wife this afternoon, and it all started around a boot sale. But it just goes to show how much men can go through. This is why this story must be spoken about. This is the platform where I absolutely talk about mental health. I've got some good stories that are going to, I'm going to talk about why this is helping. But overall, let me get stuck into this story. So I'll present a little bit of a scene. So obviously, it's not a major scene. We're not talking anything sort of spectacular. I'm not doing Downton Abbey or anything like that. But boot sale. So my wife went this morning with my daughter to a boot sale, not to buy, but to sell. Just get rid of some bits and bobs, So anyway, so she parked up, went to this place, got there relatively early. And when she was there was another boot seller right next to her. And throughout the day, as they were setting up and, sort of going through the first sort of hour and a half, 2 hours, my wife turned around and said that she saw the woman grabbing hold of the back of his hair when he was trying to put the gazebo, whatever it is, the gazebo up, so they could sit under it for a shaded area. And she was grabbing the back of his hair and thrusting it backwards and forwards whilst gripping their hair. Hopefully you can imagine what I'm talking about. And things like that. Bearing in mind, okay, so my wife sat there. She's obviously on her own. She's a woman on her own with a daughter. And my daughter's only 12. So 11, sorry. I'll get that right. So, she's very young. So this is not the sort of thing she wants to talk or be subject to. There was a lot of swearing and a lot of abuse from this woman towards this man. And then the pinnacle of the story, really, of when it sort of got to a point where even my wife and my daughter I'd had enough of seeing this, was when she stood there and said something along the lines of, "You thought you were going to Peterborough next weekend. You can think again. You're not going anywhere." And that is the power that this woman's has over him. And then the bloke was supposedly, sort of doing some stuff at the front, and she told him to come here, and he said, "What? So you can slap me again?" So you can imagine, right, this is, and I said, what was his stature? Not that it really matters, but she was like, well, sort of 5'7", 5'8", his normal stature. She wasn't particularly, she was probably about the same sort of height, she was saying. So rather than my wife, she didn't want to get involved in it, rightly so, because you don't know how this volatile, if a woman's willing to be that abusive in public, with no shame at all, then she's not probably the sort of person that you want to go, "I'm sorry, but I'm not happy. Can you not do that here?" So she went up to speak to one of the stewards, of the boot sale. And she explained the story, et cetera, et cetera. And he was like, "Oh, okay, I think I know who you mean. They're regulars here. But what I'll do is, I'll come over, which he asked what my wife's name was, and he said, what I'll do is I'll make it look like we know each other so that she leaves you alone because I know who she is. And he walked over and hung around a little bit, and the woman rightly did. She because obviously he's security, and basically she was being quite kind to him because obviously she knows that she's probably going to get arrested if that was seen. And anyway, the bloke, in a gentlemanly way, said, bye to my wife and moved on. So. But it made it look like they knew each other. So, in other words, this woman wasn't going to start doing anything, sort of defensive towards my wife. So, but it was ironic that, first off, that they knew about this. So, this is a known thing that this woman openly abuses this guy, literally grabbing his hair and thrusting it backwards and forwards, and open abuse, swearing, belittling him, and. The brazen attitude of her, for starters, for doing it outside, in public. What does she then do behind closed doors? And you just think to yourself that it's like, that must be hell. But you don't hear about those stories very much, do you? You don't hear about the bloke being abused. But it's actually becoming more and more in the media. More and more prevalent, isn't it? Especially with the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing coming to light, and I know that there's mixed reviews on that, but Christ, the evidence was plastered everywhere. It was obvious. So, it is becoming more spoken about, but it also takes men to do that. So for a man to be emasculated that much, then there's going to be no difference in the way he feels. I think they call it Stockholm Syndrome. There's going to be no difference to how he will feel towards his abuser, as, say, for instance, a female would feel towards a male abuser. Do you see what I mean? There's no difference in the feelings. So women who have been abused by men find it very difficult to come forward to the police because they're worried about repercussions. Well, there is no difference in that man not wanting to go to the police because, he's scared of the repercussions. So there's a lot there, isn't there? There's so many similarities, but we talk more about the male and female version in terms of the male as the abuser. We listen a lot more about that. And then there's the other side of things where, we don't talk about the fact that it can happen both ways. And I think that females, or women in general, should I say, are becoming a lot more... there's a lot more strength in them. They're becoming more dominant as they start to filter into bigger roles, higher priority, higher profile sort of roles, so they're getting their strength and their confidence. And they seem to be showing that it can happen the other way. So it's interesting. We don't talk about that. However, it is, it's happening right today, as in like in public. Known about as well, they knew her name and everything. So, but again, nothing's done about it. What would you do about that? You don't know who they are from Adam. So, if that person on the the guard would probably say to him, do what you care, mate. If you know who they are, would you report it? But he probably won't because he doesn't want the hassle. And that's the problem. There's a lot of hassle with this sort of thing. So, excuse me while I take a little sip of this gin. It looks absolutely refreshing. Fabulous. So, it's an interesting story, but it was just so relevant, I think, that in terms of what I'm trying to promote, what I'm talking about, which is men openly talking. And it's no different to the way that there was a female movement in terms of, women need to speak out, shout up, speak up. There's no difference in that, we need men to do the same. What causes his demise, we don't know. Maybe it got to the point that he was under so much pressure, he wilted to nothing and doesn't want to perform and doesn't want to do anything. So maybe she's reached the end of her tether with him. Do you know what I mean? And she's frustrated, but rather than trying to, there's so many diverse ways of looking at that, not just as a physical abuser, but you don't know. Do you know what I mean? You don't know the full depth of the story. But on the face of it, obviously the signs don't look good. So anyway, that was a really prevalent story for me. And I just wanted to share it because I thought it was just sort of kind of summarises why men, in a way, men are just as vulnerable as women. We don't like to show our vulnerability as men. We like to be macho. We like to be strong. I certainly do. I absolutely love the fact when you feel a man's man. It's just me. I'm very, very masculine, and I think that's kind of relevant to if you've ever learned about ADHD. It's kind of that hunter's mentality, and it was my friend actually who's fully got me into this book. And it's the ADHD in a man is in a woman as well, by the way. So obviously I'm talking from a male perspective, but ADHD in a male makes the person very dominant, very aggressive. The hunter, they call it the hunter gene, which we've kind of lost. And like I said, my friend got me into this fantastic book where they talk about ADHD, and they say it should be embraced because it's a very rare thing. It's almost like they're the survivors. So you learn quite a bit about yourself when you learn about your illnesses. But yeah, it's been fantastic. Like I said, it's that was an amazing story to sort of kind of build into, really. And then it sort of draws me into another good story, really. And that was, I was recently chatting, actually. So I've sold my motorbike, which is irrelevant. I've sold it to this fantastic guy, and we sort of just got chatting. I think he's similar sort of age to me, and we got sort of chatting away, and he loved the motorbike, similar sort of kind of feelings. I've got a Valentino Rossi. I had a Valentino Rossi rep bike, and it's an absolutely limited edition. It was number 100 of 180 made, so it's rare as rocking or shit. Not that rare, because obviously there's 180 of them, 179 more including mine. But when you consider that's worldwide, that's fairly shows the rarity of it. So he bought it, and anyway, we got chatting away, just sort of, what did you used to do on your bike and all that sort of stuff, because I'm waiting for a couple of things to come through first on it, and he was, I was saying, I used to go out for bike rides with my friends and my dad and stuff like that, and that's basically what he was wanting to do. He wanted to get that motorbike to go out with his dad, because he almost lost his dad to cancer a few years ago, and his dad beat it, which is a very similar story to me. Well, it's not very similar, it's exactly the same story as me. So you cherish the time. So he's cherishing that time now with his dad, and his dad's got a motorbike. He's gone from a Rossi Rep 125 straight up into the 600 Extreme version. So I have told him to be a little bit cautious, but he's a young buck, as they say, so he's ready to go out, isn't he? So but he's going out with his dad. So we connected like that. We were just chatting away. I sent a couple of photos of me riding out with my dad on the bikes, and I sent him a couple of motorbike pics of my motorbikes through the time, and we just sort of connected, and it was really interesting. He said we were just talking about I don't know what it was. He said, "Oh, what do you used to do?" This how randomly chatting. The guy lives right up north away from me, and we just chatted. I was like, "Oh, ex-veteran and all this sort of stuff," and it turns out he was an ex-para. So we just instantly hit it off because of the military background, military aspect. So he was now a construction worker and owned his own business with his dad. So he'd sort of left the paras but still had that veteran. He said, "I don't know what it was, mate, but I just felt that connection." That's what he said to me, and we were just talking about veteran stuff and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, if you had any sort of mental health issues." I don't know why, it was a random thing to ask, but he did. And I was, "Oh, actually, I did, yeah, this and this." And he was like, "Oh, shit." I said, "But I'm sorting it out through this podcast and all this." And anyway, he said, "Oh, chuck me your podcast link, man. I'll probably have I'll probably try and have a listen." Anyway, so I thought nothing of it. We were just chatting away, and then we got touching base, this afternoon, because I just said I'm still waiting for this document to come through, but he shouldn't be long. He's not in a massive rush. And anyway, so he messaged saying, "Dude, I absolutely listened to your mental health podcast." And he said, "I'm blown away of your brutal honesty." He said, "I've lost loads of para friends to suicide." And I was like, fuck. And I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this, but we were just sort of kind of going along, and he was saying about how if they'd have maybe opened up a bit more, it wouldn't have got to this. And he's obviously listened to my own story, and he was like, he explained this. They call it blood clot, or blood clot, I think it is, blood clot. blood clot or something. I think it's called. I was probably going to say that in a rude way, but in a not the proper way. But I will find out because I've only just learned about it. But it's this thing where when mental health gets a problem with them, they all come together and they look after each other, which is like fucking the unity of the military. You do look after each other, but that doesn't. You don't leave that mentality, unfortunately. You always try to, which is a reason of why I've, been so ups and downs, and I'm very protective as well. Anyway, I felt really humbled and really warmed that he said, look, mate, if you ever need a chat, doesn't matter. And bear in mind, this is just a guy who has just bought my motorbike and, paid me a deposit. We've just spoken briefly on the phone and just a couple of little texts. And straight away, he's like, if you ever need anyone to talk, it's almost like that family network of like, as soon as you say veteran, it's like, fuck, I'll just do what I can to look after you. Because you've been through shit. And I'm not saying that there's people out there that haven't been through shit, but the lived experience of a military person is just literally ludicrous. I was telling my friend, and I'll lead into that in a bit anyway. And but yeah, it was nice to feel that connection. He just said, "I've listened to your story, mate," and then he told me his story, which was really amazing. And he was like, "This happened to me," and I was like, "Fucking," he said, "but I'm on the other side, And I was like, "Fuck, mate." Vice versa. If you ever need anything, talk or anything, it almost like to the point where he was like, well, even when I've still got the bike, mate, I'm still going to send you photos and stuff like that. And I was like, me and my dad and going out and stuff. And I was like, fucking, that'd be amazing. And it's just crazy how you can find friendship in something so random of somebody, and I talk all the time about how I've met people. And when you look at the way that I've met people, it's just random. It's random but worked. It's almost like fate was along that line somewhere. And dare I say it, be sort of kind of that. I'm not spiritual in that sort of sense, but it does make you think. This guy's just bought my bike, and we've ended up just chatting away. He's got a construction worker, ex-military, and it's just great. It's just a phenomenal time. And anyway, so yeah, I digress a little bit there because I was just trying to analyse it myself, and that's the whole purpose of reflection, and that's why I promote reflection so much. Is because even then, when I'm talking to you, I'm actually reflecting on that experience of how wild that is myself. So it allows me to process that positive, and it allows me to hold on to that positive, which is why I was feeling in a shit mood last week. And I've managed to get through and perk myself up. And I go a bit quiet. My wife often says to me, "I worry about you." She said, "Why?" She said, there'll be a time where she'll come out and I'll just walk in the house and I'll be really quiet and I'll be really like off. And she'll just come out with a drink, put a drink down just to make sure I stay hydrated. And, she sort of looks at me and goes, "Is everything all right?" I go, "Yeah." She goes, she fully appreciates that I'm not in the best of places. And then later on, when I'm sat in the garden in peace and quiet, she'll come along and just go, and she'll just sit there and just do what she was doing, read her book, but just sit beside me, not say a word. And it's a nice romantic thing to do. And it's something that I've nurtured and something that she's nurtured through the fact of analysing me and reflecting me and me being open and honest with her. And this is how I feel, or that's how I feel, or we need this, or I need that. Can I have a cuddle? Can I have a kiss? It's not asking for these things because I'm just as bad as just letting those times slip by. And you can lose relationships by not acknowledging that. Rather than sitting there and going, "I just wanted a fucking kiss, you didn't kiss me for 3 fucking days." Just ask for a fucking kiss, When you get into a marriage, it does take work. It doesn't become the natural because your brain's frazzled by all the other shit around you. Frazzled by raising children. If you've got dogs, you've got fucking plants, whatever your hobby are. I mean, there's all sorts of shit running through my brain. 24/7 at about fucking 500 mile an hour. So I have to remember to do things sometimes. And it might be the basics of a cuddle. And every now and then I'll just go, fuck, I need a cuddle. And I've done it before where I've actually been in work. Not so much my new employment, but when I used to work at Serco, I would often go up to my mate and go, "Can I have a cuddle, mate?" I'm like, "Yeah, suck it in, mate." And it just because I just needed that comfort, I just needed that cuddle. It releases the endorphins, hold it for 30 seconds. There's nothing in it. It's just, I just needed a cuddle. And, when you don't express yourself or you rely on, those relationships and stuff that rely on fucking, it just to be there, the spark to be there 24/7. I've learned that that's just ridiculous because there's so much fucking crap going on in your brain that sometimes you are just naturally exhausted and worn down. And that's why you just need to constantly work at these things. You need to constantly make the effort. And then when you're open and honest, you'll talk to this. Your partner will understand you. You'll understand yourself, so you know what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Reflection is so important. And I talk about it all the time, as I digressed a little bit there. So, and I have so that was interesting. Like I said, it was nice. I sort of kind of fed into just chatting, and it was nice that he listened to my podcast as well, which was absolutely phenomenal because, you know, it is an up and down roller coaster for me in terms of motivation, but I struggle with that anyway in life. The problem is the fact that I've sustained this for almost 8 months is a miracle. So be thankful of nearly doing this. You know, I'm on 100 episodes. I'm doing my own TikTok now, which is like just little 2-minute inspirational videos under the Gentleman's Talk. So if you ever want to jump on, they're just 2-minute inspirational videos. You know, I just like to give a little bit of inspiration on what I'm going through. Maybe it might help someone else out there. So the fact I'm still here doing this now is a miracle. It really is, because I lose interest. Like I say, this is the longest I've done something in a long time. So that says to me straight away that this is working. That says to me this journey on reflection, splitting my time and making sure I spend time with the people and make memories with everybody. I'm trying to worry less all the time about things I can't control. Worry less about the fact, even this podcast, you know. It was interesting because my mate Nelly said to me yesterday, I missed your podcast. And I went, what do you mean you've missed my podcasts? And he went, I said, I haven't heard anything since you're live, or episode 12. And I went, fucking hell, mate. I've done live episode 16, up to 16. I've done another 5 motivational minutes, and I've done another 3 podcast sessions, and then 4 including tonight. He was like, well, and to put that to bed, I'm on Podbean, so this other platform that goes to everywhere, which is amazing, but I didn't understand their record playing sort of system. So I use Spreaker, and basically what had happened was Spreaker now want $19.99 a month to run that side of things, so I couldn't really afford it. So I stopped uploading up there, and I carried on uploading here. So, but because I'm a fucking talented friend guy, not just because I'm a friend, I did purchase 1 month to get a load of episodes on there, and then, you know, I can update them that way. It's probably cheaper for me to do that every couple of 3 months than it is to have a rolling £20 a month, until hopefully, you know, the aspiration is to get this podcast spread around so people are listening. The more they listen, it's like anything. The more you listen, the more revenue you get in, and then that affords me the ability to move away from the iPhone and uploading to 2 different situations. But that's the aspiration. That's a goal I've got, which is another reason why I've stuck to this, because I gave myself a goal at the end of it. And that's so important. So the goal is to get to a point where I enjoy it, and it becomes part of me. I enjoy this process. And everybody that's heard it has given me super, super positive feedback. And like I said, I don't rely on their feedback now, but it was interesting that, you know, he hadn't heard anything for probably about 6 weeks, and that was him jumping on to go, I missed them, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's like, been doing them every week, buddy. But it was it was my fault, 100% my fault, because I didn't let him know. I didn't, you know, and he said he was on Podbean, but he couldn't find it on there. So there's a bit of confusion there. So anyway, I digress again. So, and then I had, so this has all happened since my poddy, actually. So my last live. So this is like a crazy, you can understand, it's going to be a crazy time in my head. But I did have a little bit of a negative this week, and I will caveat that with, I haven't taken it as a full negative. I've taken it as not a negative. I took it as a negative, this story I'm going to tell you right now, but I turned it into a positive because I knew exactly why it happened. So anyway, there was this ongoing problem at work. I don't want to sort of kind of mention work too much, but there was an ongoing problem at work, quite a high profile job, and I needed a bit of support, and I haven't been getting support. Anyway, I had my boss's boss help me. She helped me along. She, you know, interjected and got a little bit of support, which is fantastic. So I openly, because I've been left in the lurch for the last 2 months on this one project, and nobody's helped me. Everyone's just watching me fucking sink, not swim. So I replied to her saying, you know, thank you very much for the support, really appreciate it, Karen McGarn James. Anyway, get this Skype message straight away saying, James, you don't need to send me kind regards. or for helping you. It's my job. And then left it at that. And I was like, okay. I said, my sincere apologies. Wasn't intended like that. I just wanted to say thank you for helping support me because I haven't had it. She said, you don't need to apologise either. You need to stop apologising. You'd only apologise to me if you've done something wrong and it can't be rectified and you try and say sorry. I was like, okay. So now I immediately took that as a little bit of a negative. I was like, what the fuck? I feel like I'm being beaten up. However, obviously I'm progressing. I'm on this leadership program and I'm trying to get into a nice B2 role, which is the next level up, which is, you're equivalent to your directors and stuff level. Oh, hold on. Bar. Oh, sorry, I thought my music just stopped then. So I'm trying to get myself promoted. I've got a lot of ambition. So when I sort of, again, I went out to caveat that into another, or sorry, kind of bring that into another story. I went golfing this morning with my dad, which was, I was supposed to go along with Kieran as well, my friend. But he went to, he chinned me off. I'm saying that for his purpose because it's a bit of banter. But no, he went to the beach with his family. So, but I still want to go because I want to keep up the routine because I really enjoy Sunday morning golf now. I fucking love it. I don't know why. I just love learning about the dynamics of the ball and how far a club goes. I'm really starting to get into this. So I kind of knew I would. I wanted to get into it, but yeah. So it's been a bit of a fantastic. So I want to carry on. Anyway, whilst I was around, I was telling the story to my dad, and he went, and I said to him, I said, but stop, I didn't react to that. And he went, oh, good, because naturally I would have reacted to that. Naturally I would have fucking messaged going, oh, all right, fucking cheer up, mate. So, or, I'd have probably gone, that's a bit fucking rude. Do you know what I mean? But I was like, no, that's not what it's about. I don't want to fucking upset you. Do you know what I mean? I said, I'm just a polite person. So I took it as that. I thought, that's fair enough. When you start getting to a senior role, supposedly it's difficult to be a nice person because people just take advantage of you. So I get that. However, when you meet me, I'm quite a robust, rotund fella. So you don't tend to want to take advantage of me. Do you know what I mean? So you tend to want to just go, I'll just do what he fucking says. And then I normally just go, I'm polite until you fucking cross my bridge. And if you cross my bridge and, fucking slash my face, I'm going to be an angry bastard, aren't I? I don't know where that metaphor come from. Just fucking craziness in my brain. Anyway, so it kind of, yeah, so I lost my train of thought because I was thinking about the bridge and everything else. So it was just kind of how it was kind of dealt with. That it kind of, hold on 2 seconds. Sorry about that. My daughter was coming to the door to ask me a question. I just caught her at the corner of my eye. So yeah, so across my bridge, I'm a different person. But I don't like being a negative person. I don't like being angry, or I can be if I had to be, but I don't like that. It's not my leadership style. Anyway, so I took it as a positive, and that brought me on. So that was kind of an interesting negative, but it was nice how I dealt with that. I dealt with that in a completely different way. I didn't take it as a negative. I just went, oh yeah, no problems. I just put acknowledged. Acknowledged and noted. I think I put, because I have to still reply. But because I didn't want it to leave it as like I took a bollocking and you've upset me, because I was going to go offline, you know what I mean, sort of thing. But I wasn't like that at all. So, but it's interesting how I'm watching myself as I learn and I reflect. And this is why reflection is so fucking big, man. You've got to reflect on yourself to understand what's going wrong. It's like, it's crazy. The more and more I talk about reflection, the more and more I go like, why the fuck didn't I do that before? It's like to reflect on what is upsetting you, and have the Billy Big Bollocks to go and deal with that problem. It changes your life. So if somebody upsets me, or somebody does something that a bit annoys me, I just go, that fucking upset me. It's kind of like, what I used to do was when someone upset me, I would just hold on to it and harbour and fester and just fucking hate myself. And I'd be like, I just want to fucking kill them, I don't like them. And there is obviously scenarios and where, excuse me, there is kind of scenarios where that doesn't always work. So, for instance, sorry, I took a big sip of water as well while you were talking to me. There is a couple of scenarios where that doesn't always work, which is sometimes a bit of a shame. Like there's a couple of instances that have happened to me in the past, and I've openly said that, I want to deal with this. It's not a case of just burying it down and forgetting about it, if we genuinely need to move on from what's happened in the past to me that's affected me, if I don't deal with it, the one thing I've learned about myself in this journey in the last 7-8 months, almost 8 months, is I have to deal with my problems, because I'm the sort of person that harbours I hold on to resentment, and I just get angrier and angrier and angrier, and you know, then I almost either will explode or I will just fucking cut them out of my life and never speak to them again. And I find it very hard if I've needed to do something, and this is where I caveat that a little bit with, there's a couple of times in a few occasions, one for instance, and unfortunately my sister, I wanted to deal with that face to face, get it dealt with, and it never did. It was just buried, and you know, here we are now 4 years still not talking, because nobody wants to have a face-to-face to me. They just want to bury it under the carpet and just pretend it never happened. And I'm in a bit of an awkward situation for that exact scenario next weekend. So, but I'll do it because I'll be the bigger person. But at the same time, you know, it's going to be an awkward situation I'm put in. But I'm doing that because I absolutely love my father. So I wouldn't want to see him suffer and struggle. So, but it's a fucking horrible situation to be in, what's going to happen. But I won't talk about that because it's very personal. But anyway, so, but if I don't deal with it, that's what hurts me. Because if I haven't dealt with it and that person's chose to just ignore it, that means to me that they've undervalued what they've done to me. And that's the biggest problem, is that's how exactly as I see life, is if somebody is not willing to address something, so say for instance they've hurt me, they know they've hurt me, or there's been an occasion where we've argued and they won't let us talk about it and we just go on. My brother-in-law, a prime example, you know, we had a major bust up years and years and years and years ago. It was nothing to do with me, threatening me, and it was never dealt with. It was just brushed under the carpet. And I went, well, I've done nothing wrong, so I'd like to know what your fucking problem is and get it out and talk about it so we can... It brings people closer, man, for fuck's sake. If you're open and honest about what someone's doing... Like, I'm very honest about myself. And you know, I said it to Billy on Friday. He said to me... He rung me up in the morning. He said, fucking hell, you've answered the phone. And I went, oh, he said, I don't expect you to answer the phone. And I went, but you know I don't answer the phone. I don't lie about it. If I don't answer the phone, it's because I don't want to speak to you, or I don't want to speak to anyone. It's not a personal thing. I'm not being horrible. I'm just not in the mood to talk. So why answer the phone and be a miserable fuck on the phone and not have a very good conversation because all I want to do is get you off the phone? That's the brutal honesty of how I think. And I just go, I don't want to fucking sit there and endure that, because it won't be a very good fucking phone call. I'd rather you just call me a dick, and when we have a quality conversation, it will supersede everything that. But I'm open and honest. I tell you openly. If I chin you off last minute, it's my anxiety, mate. I try not to do it, but it's going to fucking happen. If I fucking ignore your phone call or your text message, it's because I'm fucking not in the mood to talk. Or something's happened and I'm a bit fucking jealous or whatever. It's how I deal with it. I'm open and honest about what fucking affects me. I have to be, because there's so much that does affect me. So, but that gives people the ability to understand that I'm willing to talk about anything. I don't fucking care, you know. You want to talk about that every 6 months I have a PSA fucking test because cancer runs in my fucking family. It's absolutely rife. So from the age of 37, I've been having a fucking doctor's digit up me bum, checking me prostate. Do you see what I mean? So I'm open and honest about everything. My mental health has been fucking horrendous. 3 suicides attempts. You know, there's been a plethora. Hooked on fucking cocodamol for fucking 3 years. I've tried every remedy under the fucking book. I've tried everything. Do you know what that boils down to? Putting all that shit aside and 10 years of fucking pain and torment. When you put all that shit aside, I'm still here. I'm still battling. I'm still fucking still fighting the fight. And I'm having a better time daily. This has been 6-7 months. I never anticipated I would be as happy as I am when I am happy at the moment. Yes, I have bad days. Fuck, everyone has bad days. And those bad days are exacerbated. Yes, I have ADHD, which does inherently control me because it stops me doing projects, it stops me doing things. I lose interest very fucking easily. If you ever Google it, ADHD, and especially learning it, I had it at 40. It's a fucking tough time. But all it really does is kind of learning about it at 40 doesn't do anything. It's not that I want the label, but what I want to do is understand the label. That's the reason why I talk about it. Because I want to understand what my body is going through, where my mind thinks. When I sit here and I react, and I used to react to emails and get really fucking like, and I'm trying to control that now because I'm trying to control my emotions because I am an emotional person. And it's almost like what people don't understand is I relate ADHD to things like, say for instance, I come in and say for instance I go out for the day and we go shopping, and then I'll come home. And I'd have got changed. I'd have got changes into my sloggies, so I'd just be sat there in shorts, and I'd just be sitting chilling out. That's me done for the day now. If my wife turns around to me and says, "Let's go out for a meal," I will sit there and go, right, okay, so I'm going to go out for a meal. It's going to cost me 45, 50 quid. I've got to get changed again. Do I put some more underwear on because I've got this underwear on and I don't want this underwear on? I want to put other underwear on. Do I wear flip flops? Is my watch charged? Is it going to be worth going up there for 50 quid, or should I just get a £25 fucking takeaway and then we can stay at home? But she wants to go out, but I don't really want to go out. I think it's a lot of hassle for wanting to go out. And then normally I'll go, nah, do you know what? I'm not really in the fucking mood, mate. We'll just get a Nando's. And she doesn't argue because she knows that that's my process. I've done that. I've analysed everything. It ain't fucking worth it. I'm not doing it. Whereas if you'd have got me when we were already downtown and said, should we go into the fucking, should we go have a pizza now, or should we go out for a meal now? I'd have gone, yeah, I'm here. I'm fucking ready to go. Do you see what I mean? So that's how what I'm learning is how my brain thinks. And it's almost like I had a little bit of a funny spell on my last, and I say that in a funny way, with Billy, when I was talking to him about my mythology and how I deal with things, and he thought I was being serious to him, and I wasn't. I said to him what I would normally have done if you listen to the last podcast, when someone sort of sends me a message with negative feedback, normally I'd reply going, well, fuck you. You haven't spoken about my podcast for fucking months, so why all of a sudden you being negative? So I would look that as a negative towards him, and he thought I was being serious. He went, no, whoa, and I was like, no, I'm saying that's what I used to think like. That's how my brain is fucking wired. But now I'm trying to rewire my brain a little bit to understand, don't go through those processes. Yes, you'll still think it, but at the same time, deal with it slightly differently. Walk away, calm down, and then text back in a nicer way, because you'll probably interpret the message slightly differently. So I'm learning constantly all the time, and what is geared up to learning is reflection, looking inward every single day, doing my podcast on a reflection, not just pumping stuff out there because it's there, which is almost what I was doing. I love talking about my story, but I love talking about the better myself bit now. I love talking about what works, what doesn't work, how I can have good days that turn into fucking good weeks. I can have a bad day that turns into a bad month. Do you know what I mean? It can go there, but they're getting less and less. Why? Because I'm continuing my routine. I'm continuing with sticking to what I know works for me, which is walks, engaging with the right people, talking to the right people daily, making new memories constantly. Like I said, this morning we're going out with golf. It was absolutely fucking fantastic. And my dad wasn't going to go, and I literally said to him, when did I see him? I think I saw him on Friday. And I said, I'm going to play golf on Sunday. He said, I'm not sure I can. And I was like, all right, so try if you can. You're more than welcome to come along. So he messaged me Saturday night saying, I'll come along. I said, shall I meet you in the Anton, I think it's called. And I said, no. I said, I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock. So I drove through. And like I said, unfortunately, my mate didn't come with us as well. But he was like, impromptu, last thing, just, jump in the car, mate, we'll go play golf. It's only an hour and a half. But it's a memory that is amazing. And that's what I'm trying to do, off-the-cuff stuff. Just get out and spend time with the right people, spend time with the people I love, making those really good memories, and being open and honest about myself. And I think that if you're open and honest, it can be quite scary. It really can be. But if you've noticed how my outlook in life is better, I'm looking at things more positively because I'm trying to be positive. It's so easy when you've been entangled in a negative web for 10 years or however long you've been enduring your mental health problems, you just get completely consumed by them. It just becomes regular. You almost seek out negativity to thrive on more negativity. That's what happens when you don't help yourself. But what I've been doing is engaging with myself, reflecting, meditating, just doing things that I enjoy, doing things that are good for me, good for my well-being. Not doing things because of other people, but just going and doing it. Looking for the next adventure, getting stuck into something new, like getting stuck into golf for me is already today. I had a really good round and I went, that's fucking sparked up. I'm going to be pushing to get rid of some of my other gear and I'm going to buy a nice set of clubs. Not, nothing overly expensive, just something to have a bit of fun with. And that's because my outlook's different. That's because I'm trying to make differences in myself. And absolutely you can do that just by reflecting. When you reflect, and something I chucked on my TikTok earlier actually was the little caveat when you reflect as well. And if you've got a partner, reflect with them. As in, go over the day as a couple, or always your friendship. If you've been out as a friend and you've had a negative time, or you've got a relationship, you've had a day and you've had a negative time, sit down with that person and go, can I be honest and brutal with you? Can I tell you what's upset me today? What has upset me? Your attitude here, here and here has upset me. Don't go on the defensive and go, when they turn around and say, well, you've upset me, which they inevitably will because we're humans, you get defensive, but don't you attack with another defense. Take it on board and go, absolutely, okay, I take that on board. I think that personally that situation was caused because of that, and I did get a bit uptight, so can we avoid that? It's amazing how much communication can stop problems. When you try and hide problems is when you get bigger problems. When you talk about your problems, of what upsets you or what is upsetting you or how you're feeling, when you reflect as a couple and you sit down and go, that annoyed me today, do you not think that would make you stronger? Yes, if you can embrace the honesty, your relationship will probably last longer because you're going, do you know what, you fucked me off there. And if that person turns around and goes completely defensive and just fucking slashes you down, then maybe look at the relationship and go, fucking hell, it's a bit aggressive. I was just trying to be open and honest. But reflection is a really good tool, really good tool. Anyway, I'm going to end it there because I've absolutely enjoyed that. That has been therapeutic for me. A little bit of music. I'm going to finish my glass of gin in the back garden because it is toasty in my little cabin. And I'm just going to enjoy a little bit of sound of the music just to take on the rest of the half hour with a little bit of reflection, just thinking about this again. So thank you for listening. I hope you've got something out there. So I'm certainly getting a lot more out of life from making the journey right. Yes, I have bad days. Yes, I still see things negatively. That's not going to change overnight. Christ, there'll be people that go, fucking hell, you do this. I know I do. And the fact that you're saying, I fucking do. We just got to learn to live with it. We're all individual peoples. I'm a fucking crazy character. I really am. I'm a crazy character. But at the same time, my heart is always, always, always in the right place. And that is why I get taken advantage of. But at the same time, if I can be strong, the strength will come to knock people down and go, back off, leave me alone. And I've started to enjoy life now without the worry of waiting for other people to make my life fun. That's a big thing for me, because that's what I used to rely on, was other people making my life fun. But reflections give me the ability to enjoy time on my own, enjoy my own company again, without looking at it as where I used to sit, where my own company was encased in a black fog, almost like a black haze of demons around my fucking brain just talking to me all day. That's depression. And I'm trying to eradicate that as much as I can. Yes, I'll still battle the ADHD, still battle those PTSD symptoms and some of the anxiety, but I get stronger and stronger. And I hate putting the labels on it, but we have to put labels on it sometimes just to understand what people are going through and understand how we can help them. That's the key part. Anyway, thank you for listening. Have an amazing day, evening, whatever the rest of the time is for you after listening to this, or even a good snooze. Drive safely, do things fun, and ultimately just be as happy as you can. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care.